Hey there. Let's talk about procrastination. When it comes to estate planning, it's totally normal to put it off. Only 33% of adults in the United States have documented their end-of-life plans. I get it. It's not exactly thrilling, and it can feel overwhelming, right? But here's the deal. Life's unpredictable. None of us can know what tomorrow brings. And that's why estate planning matters more often than we realize. Taking a bit of time now can save your loved ones tons of stress and money later. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how much your procrastination costs both your future and your family. Now, with that in mind, the best math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of your current decisions. If you decide to stay without an estate plan, you are valuing how much the work and effort of an estate plan costs versus how much an administration or probate would cost your family if you die without one. Now, when we look at both of these things, the first thing we have to understand is what is in our estate, what is in our probate estate. This is a graphic I like to use to show you that everything you own is in your probate estate unless it's otherwise titled out. So anything you own in your own name and any accounts that you have that don't have properly titled beneficiaries are items that are inside your estate. Now, the most common items are things like houses, land, businesses, physical items, jewelry, antiques, and valuables. There's also items we don't think about, like our cash accounts, our daily drivers that we use to be able to get groceries and things like that. Also our vehicles. Now, things that are definitely not inside our estate are items that have properly titled beneficiaries, which usually is your life insurance, or your stock or brokerage or retirement accounts. Those are not going to be what's in your probate estate. Now, for you to figure out what is in it, I want you to understand it's not what's in it, it's the value of what's in it. And we're not looking at how much you owe. We're looking at the fair market value of what you have an ownership interest in. So if we're looking at your house and your house is worth $500,000, you're going to write down my house, $500,000 as part of your probate estate. If you owe $350,000 on a $500,000 house, that doesn't matter. We're only looking at the actual overall value of what you have. So I want you to take a few minutes and sit down and think about everything you own and what its fair market value would be. And you can use roundabout numbers. Now, once you know the grand total of all of the assets that you have, the next thing we're going to take a look at is what exactly the costs are for going to probate. So when you go to probate, probate costs time, first of all. It's a minimum of 7 months, closer to a year in most cases. There's court fees and filing fees. There's attorney's fees. There's also executor fiduciary fees. And there are estate expenses. Estate expenses are things like carrying costs. For example, if you have a $500,000 house with a $350,000 mortgage and you die, someone has to pay that mortgage for several months until your probate can be opened. If you don't have an heir that can cover that, you may have some problems in the future. Once we look at those things, it's actually quite easy to calculate how much probate could cost. Now, when we're looking at, I'll come down here, move myself over here. All right, we're looking at a $100,000 estate. Court fees are going to be fairly minimal. And executor fees are also fairly minimal. $100,000, they're doing $5,000. Your attorney's fees on a $100,000 estate in New York are usually around $2,500 to $3,500. A more expensive attorney or a more complicated could be up to $10,000, just depending on where all of the beneficiaries are and who we have to locate and find. But on average, you're going to be paying a little over 8%, or about $8,920 in legal fees and executorship fees and court fees, just to open and run a $100,000 estate. Now, a $100,000 estate, because it's that amount, it might just be cash accounts. It might just be one small piece of land. That's a lot of money to spend on one small estate. That being said, $8,900 around here in upstate New York is probably going to be the top of what you're paying for a trust-based estate plan. So in a $100,000 estate, you might be breaking out even if you go with a complex, expensive estate plan. Now, let's take a look at our step up of a $500,000 estate. A $500,000 estate around here is typically made up of a house, 2 cars, a bank account, and maybe a savings account. All right, that can very easily get us over that number. We're going to be paying the maximum amount of court fees on something like this. Your executor fees are going to be about $19,000, and your attorney's fees are going to also jump up along with the value of the estate. They'll be anywhere between 15 and 20. If we're looking at this, it's going to be a little over 7% of the value of the estate, or $35,000, in order to probate a $500,000 estate. It's a lot more money than it would take for you to be able to put in a trust-based plan. Usually trust-based plans for estate planning are about $5,000 to $7,000, sometimes less, sometimes more. But clearly they're not $35,000, which could happen to you. Now, let's say you're part of the few that have a $1 million estate. Maybe it's that you have a really nice house or multiple houses, or you've got some high amount of dollar values in your bank account. If you're at $1 million estate in New York, this is what you're looking at for fees. Your court fees are going to be $1,250. It's max court fee. Your executor fees now bump up a lot as well. They get paid based on the amount of value that you have. So just a more expensive asset may not be any more work, but a more expensive asset gets them a lot more money. And then your attorneys work the same way. A more expensive asset means more money. Now, I know $27,000 in attorney's fees sounds like a lot, but I'm going to tell you, it's a lot. So if you are looking at sitting on the couch and not getting up and doing any type of a probate plan, and you have this amount of money in your bank account or sitting around, you are risking your family about $62,000, which I think is the cost of a new Range Rover, maybe a lower line Range Rover, just by not doing what you should be doing, which is getting your plan done. On top of that, you're going to be causing them a lot of stress, because if you don't have any of your end-of-life documents done, who's going to be your healthcare proxy? Who's going to be your power of attorney? Who's going to be the person in charge? If you don't put any of that down in writing, your kids have to decide for themselves, or your family will have to figure it out if you don't tell them who you want or what you want to have done. So it might seem kind of crazy that $1 million estate could have over $62,000 in fees, but when you look at it percentage-wise, the reason that the court thinks it's reasonable is because it's really only a little over 6% of the value of the estate that gets removed in fees. So they think that the rest should all be fine to go to your beneficiaries. Now, the other thing I didn't mention is all the carrying costs on your properties. If you have property and it's not titled correctly into a trust and you pass away in New York, your property, if it has liens on it, still has to be paid. It still has to be maintained. Someone has to put the money forward. Someone has to shovel the sidewalk. So if it's not you, who's it going to be? Your family? Your kids? Do you really want to do that? So this is my wake-up call to you. Take a look at what, if you just do nothing this year and you say, you know what, I'm not going to die in 2024 or whenever, this is what you're risking. You could be paying professionals and fiduciaries a good amount of money, and that's money that could be going to your family. Plus, it'll save your family a lot of expense. If you're ready to take the next step, meaning you want to have a conversation with an attorney on how to manage this or how to fix this problem, if you realize that this is a problem that you may have, give us a call. You can book an appointment or check out some of the rest of our social media, and hopefully we'll have some answers to what you're looking for.